What's going on, everybody? Good late morning, a little bit later in the morning here. We've got some more college prospects to take a look at here. Got some more players that played, I think, pretty effectively on Saturday, or maybe in a couple cases, Friday, Thursday, Sunday. Who knows when they have college football games these days? They almost try to put games every day of the week now, it feels like. So we're doing defense now. We did offense earlier today. If you haven't seen that video yet, go check it out. We did quarterbacks, we did receivers, we did tight ends, we did offensive linemen. A lot of good players in that group. Defense had a little bit of a hard time finding guys at some of these positions, I got to be honest with you. So this is going to be a little bit of a quicker video, I think. Nose tackle, I think this is just going to be business as usual at this point. We only found two guys. There aren't that many prolific nose tackles in college football. There just aren't. And when I say nose tackle, I mean a true nose tackle, somebody who I think is going to be able to be a one tech or zero tech even. Tyleik Williams, who will probably be here every week because he's really good. 2 tackles, half a tackle for loss, half a sack, 2 QB pressures. Ohio State allowed 28 yards rushing, which was less than a yard per carry, and 0 points. So his individual performance was decent, but the way his team played was dominant, especially against the run. And no points allowed, 76 PFF grade. The only other guy I really want to draw attention to this week would be Dante Corleone. For one, he played. He had blood clots in the offseason, I think, so there was some concern about when he would get to play. Well, he's back for the Cincinnati Bearcats, and he actually had a pretty good game, 6 tackles, including a sack, tackle for loss, and 3 QB pressures. And Corleone is, as near as I can tell anyway, a true nose tackle, so the fact that he's generating QB pressures is notable. Now, Cincinnati got run all over. They gave up almost 200 rushing yards, almost 6 yards a carry, and they lost the game 28-27. So it wasn't all great, but Dante Corleone did stand out as one of the top performers. And really, it's just notable that he's out there because when they start talking about blood clots, you could miss a lot of time. 76.3 PFF grade on Dante Corleone. That's really it for nose tackle. Moving on to edge here, where we find a pretty decent collection of players, I would say. Abdul Carter made his first significant splash of the year for Penn State. He's going to be one of the top guys, I think. 7 tackles, 1 for loss, 2 pressures. Penn State's defense did disappoint a little bit. 375 yards, 27 points, 67.8 PFF. They're going to have to be much better than that the rest of the way. Penn State's defense always has some hype, and they're playing Bowling Green. Like, that's not good. That's certainly not the kind of result that you want. But Abdul Carter definitely headed for bigger and better things as this season goes on. Mike Green of Marshall makes this list a second time. He's off to a really good start this season. He may have even been better this week. 5 tackles, 2 for loss, 2 sacks. So really, really excellent coming off the edge here. 7 pressures. 7 pressures in one game for Marshall. 338 yards allowed, 21 points allowed, 67.1 PFF grade. This guy's going to start going up the boards, I think. I think this guy's going to climb quickly. He's one of those small school guys that takes a while to get going in terms of the hype, but I think when the hype gets here, it's going to be big. Jack Sawyer, the other Ohio State edge rusher. This is the guy opposite JT. 3 tackles, 1 for loss, a sack, 6 QB pressures. So a lot of time living in that backfield, Boye Mafe style. 99 total yards allowed by OSU, 0 points. So dominant defensive performance against a really bad team, I understand. 65.2 PFF grade. Princely Umanmielen, a transfer from Florida to Ole Miss this most recent offseason. He stood out a little bit this week. 2 tackles only, 1 for loss, a sack. So he did make a play on the quarterback here. 5 QB pressures. 278 yards allowed by Ole Miss. 3 points. So very much defensively dominant. And 90.5 PFF grade. So PFF thought he was absolutely brilliant. So Princely making some waves here, making some progress. And final guy would be Jordan Birch, who played on a defense that didn't play very well, admittedly. Like, Oregon's defense got pushed around a little bit, but he had 8 tackles, including a tackle and a half for loss, a sack, 5 pressures, 369 total yards, 34 points, and 76.1 from PFF. He's a little bit of a bigger guy, I think. I don't know if he'll be an NFL edge. He might end up moving inside in the NFL, admittedly, but he played well. He played really well. and he's maybe the best player on that Oregon defense. I don't know if he is, but he's up there. He's in the conversation, and they're going to lean on him a lot this year, it looks like, because that defense isn't dominant right now. Linebacker was tough this week. I was really down on the linebacker play this week. Not a lot stood out to me positively. Honestly, the only guy who I think was genuinely really impressive was Danny Stutzman. There was one guy who stood out this week for me at linebacker. It was Stutzman of Oklahoma. On a team that really needed a great defensive performance to gut out a tough win, which is not common for Oklahoma, he had it. 15 tackles, 1 for a loss. OU only allowed 58 rushing yards against Houston. I think it was Houston. 1.7 yards a carry, 1 tackle for loss, 12 points allowed, and a 67.9 PFF grade. And I think Stutzman was completely clean in coverage as well. He didn't allow, if he allowed anything, he allowed very little in coverage. So Stutzman was great. Other than that, the only other guys I want to highlight here are Barrett Carter, and I'm mostly highlighting him because he played such a weird game for Clemson. 0 tackles, but 1 pass deflection, 3 QB pressures, and a good PFF grade of 74.2, 0 targets in coverage. So his 1 pass deflection was batted at the line. So he was really good on the blitz, and he was really clean in coverage, but somehow got 0 tackles. Kind of funny. That's the main reason why I put him here. It's kind of weird to look at this and go, huh, how did that happen? And Clemson's defense was not dominant, but they were pretty good. 149 rushing yards allowed, 20 points allowed. Fair. And the only other linebacker I could find that was notable at all was Jeffrey Bassa, and his defense, like, same for Jordan Birch. What I said about him is true. He kind of got beat up. That defense got beat up. He had 8 tackles and a pass deflection, and he was graded out well by PFF, 71.2, but Oregon's defense got run over by Zhang. 221 rushing yards, 6.7 yards a carry, 34 points. That's not really going to excite people that much, but this was not a good week for inside linebacker play, in my estimation. I didn't see a lot that caught my eye. Final group here, we're going to do defensive backs, so this is going to be mostly safeties with 1 cornerback who's, I think, projected to be a nickel in the NFL. So we're going to start with 2 safeties here. Andrew Mukuba, very interesting guy from Texas here, very talented, very fast, great athlete, just needs to realize his potential. 4 tackles, a pick, 12 points allowed by that Texas defense. Remember, they were playing Michigan. That's a legitimate offense. Well, maybe. I mean, maybe it's not a legitimate offense, but it's a legitimate team. It's not like Saginaw Valley. It's a real team here. And he came up with the pick, and Michigan only had 204 passing yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, 82.4 PFF grade. So Mukuba played a good game, made a big play to help flip that game, turn that game towards Texas. And then we have Xavier Watts. There's not a lot good going on for Notre Dame right now. They're feeling pretty bad about themselves. But Notre Dame's defense held up pretty well, I think. Xavier Watts had 8 tackles. They allowed 16 points, which really should have been enough to win that game if they had a competent offense. Only allowed 198 passing yards, although it was only on, 20 attempts. And a 74 PFF grade. Xavier Watts, I think, off to a good start this year. The corner I want to shout out here is another Oregon guy, and it's kind of funny that I keep talking about Oregon guys when Oregon got kind of lit up on defense. They didn't play well, but Jabbar Muhammad of Oregon, 6 tackles, half a tackle for loss, 3 pass deflections, so he got targeted quite a bit, and he actually held up and was really making plays on the ball, and that stood out to me. Admittedly, he did allow 50 coverage yards total, but it was on 9 targets. So he gave up 5.6 yards per target, which is, when you look at it like that, it's not that bad, right? 9 targets, 50 yards is pretty reasonable. And Oregon only gave up 148 passing yards total, so it's not like they got passed all over. Only 3.7 yards per attempt. So Jabbar Muhammad, I mean, we know it from Washington. He's got ball skills, and they came out in this game. He did get beat a little bit, but I'm encouraged. 74.3 PFF grade. I think he will be a nickel in the NFL. Final 2 guys, they're both safeties. Another Oklahoma guy. I really want to highlight that Oklahoma really needed this great defensive performance to win. Billy Bowman, 5 tackles, 6 coverage yards allowed on 3 targets, so that's 2 yards per target. Really good for a safety especially. 12 points allowed, 260 pass yards allowed, which was 9.3 yards per attempt, which is a lot, but the volume isn't really there, right? And a 66.7. Final guy would be Nick Manwari of South Carolina. He had a nice little game, 7 tackles and a pick six, 24-yard pick six. Didn't allow anything in coverage. He got targeted a few times, didn't allow any catches. The SC only allowed 6 points. The team as a whole allowed 44 passing yards, like 2.5 yards per attempt, and a sterling 91 PFF grade. So some pretty good safety play this week, actually. I liked what I saw. Some of these guys doing a good job making plays on the ball, standing out to me in one way or another. All right. So that is it for our college football look. That is it for our prospect watch this week. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what stands out to you here. I will see you guys later today. There will be plenty more videos, probably another video in like 2 hours, so keep an eye out for it. Everyone have a good rest of your Wednesday, and go Hawks as always.